What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Art Shack. This is part 5, I believe. It's been a little while since I have actually drawn with this. The way I usually will do these videos is I'll probably do 2 or 3 of them at one take, and then edit them and release them in a timely manner. So there are gaps from which I actually get to work on these. But I do remember in my last video that I was talking about different things that I could possibly do in the foreground. From what I think I'm going to end up doing, it's just going to be probably a few sticks and twigs and things like that. Nothing too extraordinary. Alright, so I have a large rock hanging out right here. I can make that out. So this is the good thing. I remember talking about making distinctive lines or marks. Now this is individual basis. It's going to be different for everyone. But there are things that I will do in a drawing that will tell me what I intend for them to be. So a shape like this, I know that I had intended for that to be a rock. So if you end up taking a long break, like I kind of did with this drawing, that is a very good way to remind yourself of what you were trying to do. Alright, so let me zoom in here like I usually do. That way everyone can really get an idea for what's going on. Alright, and let's try and pick out some things that might be happening in here. So I initially had a log kind of hanging out over here going this way, but I'm not sure I really like that. So what I would like to do is have this log kind of going this way. That way the eye follows this tree and then kind of makes its way up the drawing. So let's do that. I'm not going to worry too much about this log as it stands. I'm just going to kind of make it go away. That's what I'm going to do. But I don't want to erase it fully. I still kind of want to have that texture there in case I decide to do something else. So let's have a large branch or something that's kind of just all broken up. We'll kind of figure out everything as it goes. So I'm imagining at the ends of these are going to be kind of splintered. And of course the bottom of this is going to be very heavily shaded in. I'm just going to do this now so that way I don't forget the lighting that I'd like to have on this, although it's not going to be entirely fully detailed. I intend to have this whole area here fairly dark, or maybe light. Let's see how it goes. I'll start it off light, see how it looks, and if I don't really like it, I'll just shade everything in. A nice easy way to sort of as a filler is just to create some grass details and things like that. That's something I really like to do. By the way, I'm using a 2B pencil. I figured that's probably a good piece of information to give everyone. Although I'm not doing too much with it at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just give this area once over, shade it in. Sort of makes me feel better when everything has a tone to it. Just every area of the drawing has its place and sense of belonging within the unification of the image overall. So just kind of shading everything in and giving everything a sense of purpose really tends to set the mind at ease. Alright, so I'm intending to have a lot of this as grass. Now initially this waterfall or little pool area here probably would have came all the way up to this tree and came around, but because of the waterfall that I added in, the perspective changed a little bit and I had to shorten it up. And now I'm going to add in probably another, let's add a top of a rock kind of right there. I like to add in objects here and there just to kind of add in a bit of visual interest. I think this area of the drawing, I'm just going to let you know right now, it's going to bother me a lot if I don't do anything with it. The problem I'm having is when you don't have a buffer in this area, it's going to draw attention to a part of a drawing that's not intended to have any attention drawn to it, and that becomes problematic. At least for me, I kind of tend to get a little bit OCD sometimes about this stuff. So, an easy solution, and I know a lot of people are probably going to laugh, is just whenever you have a problem, just add a tree. It's the answer to all. Whenever you have a problem, just add a tree. I know there's certain people out there that'll get a real good kick out of that. And that's something that is said over a lot of live hangouts that I've been in. So, but I'm not going to really add a tree. I'm going to add a bush. So let's add a bush. Alright, so I'll have the tree trunk. There we go. Bush trunk, or whatever the terminology is, just kind of hanging out right in here. There's going to be a lot of stuff hanging out in here. But what I'm going to do, I don't want to use that eraser. I'm going to use a little balled up kneaded eraser, just kind of lighten up this area right here. Alright, then what I tend to do is to start up on this bush and just kind of create a whole heap of texture for this. It's going to be done the same way that I would do my trees. And let's see how this turns out. This is what I like to call the wing it method. I know it doesn't seem very professional, but it's just kind of one of those things that you do on the fly just to kind of work with areas that aren't exactly cooperating with what you're trying to do. So that's one thing I really do like about drawing, especially if you're trying to draw from imagination or just trying to loosely base something off of something. There's a lot of problem solving that needs to take place, and it's very important. And having a visual memory of certain things that you kind of know how to draw, implementing those and sort of fixing those problems as they arise makes the drawing process very fun for me. So that's one of the things I really enjoy to do. So improvising like this and just trying to fix the problems as they come up is what I just really enjoy trying to do. So that's what I'm attempting to do right here. So I'm attempting to add in a bush. But the problem is that I'm noticing is that this background is very dark. So we'll see how things go. It's hard to add dark on top of dark. That's the problem I'm having. But I'm imagining this bush to be very, very dark because of the tree that's going to be above it. It's going to be really keeping any light from hitting it at all. So I'm actually onto the 4B. This is about as dark as I'll go as far as my grades of pencils that I actually use. Alright, that's not bad. I just want to get a little bit of texture in there. And it should hold up as some sort of object with leaves or something like that. Something with that sort of texture. I'm going to leave it like that for now. Grab the 2B again. And just try and add in some rocky sort of deals in here. Alright, one thing I'd also like to try and do is at least get the base of this trunk going. So let me try and do that. Now this side of the tree is going to be very, very light. So I'm using a 4H. You can hear that scratching on there probably. The H pencils are very, very hard in comparison to the B pencils, so they tend to make loud scratching sounds like this. This is going to be the base layer of it. I'm going to go over it with some darker pencils to try and bring out some of the bark-like texture in this. And this tree is going to have to be very, very detailed and textured in order to stand out against everything around it. Alright, so I'm drawing a little bit off camera, but I'm just doing the same texture up and down. I'm basically just shading it in. And then what you can do is grab like a 2B, and then when you start using that, it'll create some really interesting texture. So what I'm doing right now is a burnishing method, and the graphite doesn't really stick too well to the 2 or 4H that I put down, so it's really showing up against the paper that I didn't cover, and that's where all these dark lines are coming up from. So it just helps to really create a very interesting texture that stands out very well. And this side of the tree here is going to be nice and dark. Isn't that pretty neat? How it just does that. And this is why I really like using pencils. There's a lot of tricks that you can do to create some very, very interesting effects. And then on this side of the tree, just go ahead and lighten some things up. Just kind of bring it out. But I'm getting way too carried away in that tree, and I want to do a lot more to it. But I just wanted to put it there because I'm going to start adding in some grass in this foreground area. So what I'm going to do is grab my eraser stick. If you don't have one of these, grab yourself a pink pearl or something with a sharp eraser edge on it. Anything like that will help. Alright, so with this, I'm going to start out by the tree and just start erasing out some lines, or thick lines, as this is doing. This is going to create the base layer for the grass. As you reach the foreground, or the closest area to you, or the bottom of the drawing, you want to start to create longer blades of grass. This is going to help to create the illusion of depth, really. That's what it's going to help to do. And I'll shorten the grass near this the broken branches on the ground. That way we don't completely cover it. And I'll put in some more around here. And I'll just do it like that for now. And you can pretty much see how what I'm doing there is taking effect. Alright, so I'm going to use an HB back over here. And you want to find those areas that you erased and just kind of start shading one side of them in, as well as adding in more texture in and around those areas. This is going to be a bit of a multi-part process, much like doing in the water and things like that. You kind of have to add a bit of texture, erase them away, add a bit more, erase them away. So it's a bit repetitive, but it's just the methods that go into creating the texture. I switched to a 2B just to try and get some darker strokes in here. Now, using a sharper pencil really does help with this, so I'm rotating mine as I use it, just to keep that sharp edge going. To create a bit more depth, you can also shade in near the base of the grass, just to help to fill in some of it. I remember back when I was trying to first learn how to draw grass, it took me a bit of time, and I remember spending about an hour or so just trying to fill in a patch about this size. You can spend a lot of time doing it, and the more time you spend on it, probably the better it'll come out. I'm just trying to quickly get some of this area filled in just for the sake of time. Now down at the very bottom here, I want to create some blades of grass that stand out against everything else here. And at the very bottom you can just kind of shade it in. Kind of like that. So that's basically the start of it. And then it's just about going back in with the eraser, just picking out areas and creating those highlights. And then of course you can always go back in and just shade in some of these areas. Alright, I think over here by the branch that's on the ground, I want to create some ground texture. So using that 2B, you can easily do that. Alright, in the same way we did the tree trunk here, you can grab a 4H and just start shading in what's on the ground here. And then going back to a 2B, you can nice and easily start making some of that awesome texture again. Now I don't want to make this too distinctive. It just kind of be one of those things that adds a bit of texture of variety to it, but I'm not sure how much detail I'll actually end up adding into it. It's just going to kind of be something like that for now. Just to sort of hint at what it is, but not fully adding in a whole lot of detail. You can spend a long time doing this, but I will add in a bit of a highlight on the top just to show that it's a round object just kind of hanging out there. Something like that. I'm just using an HB and kind of giving the grass a once over. Trying to calm down some of this contrast that's being created. And just some things like that. So we are making progress, which is a very good thing. Alright, so before I end the video, I know I still have a little bit more over here to go. I'm thinking of just kind of adding in a few rocks here and there. I don't really want to do too much with it. And then we'll have a rock kind of hanging out right here. Something like that. But this image is getting pretty close to being completed, so we really just have to work on the tree a bit more and the foreground a bit, and then it's just the final toning and after details just to kind of polish things up. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time to watch this, and I will see you all later. Take care.